In a democracy, the power to choose leaders belongs to the people. This power is used through voting, a process where every adult citizen gets to cast one vote to select their representative. This simple idea, one person, one vote, is the very foundation of a free and fair country. But what happens when this foundation is shaken? In recent times, India has been facing a serious political storm centered on allegations of vote theft. Now, this term doesn't mean someone is physically stealing a ballot box. Instead, it refers to a more complex and hidden problem: the manipulation of voter lists to unfairly influence the outcome of an election before anyone even gets to the polling booth. The core of the issue is the voter roll, which is the official list of all the people who are eligible to vote in a particular area. Allegations of vote theft suggest that these lists are being tampered with in two main ways. First, by adding fake or fraudulent names, which could be used to cast illegal votes for a specific party. Second, by illegally deleting the names of real, eligible voters, especially those who are likely to vote against the ruling party. This effectively silences their voices and takes away their constitutional right to participate in the democratic process without them even knowing it until it is too late. This controversy is not just a disagreement between political parties. It strikes at the heart of India's democratic identity. For many citizens, the election process is a sacred trust. They believe that when they vote, their choice will be counted fairly and will contribute to the formation of the government. When this trust is broken by accusations of widespread systematic fraud, it creates a deep sense of unease and anger. It raises fundamental questions about whether the elections are truly free and fair, and if the government in power genuinely represents the will of the people. The current situation has grown into a major national issue, forcing citizens to think about the health of their democracy. The importance of this issue cannot be overstated, especially in a country as large and diverse as India, which prides itself on being the world's largest democracy. Fair elections are the mechanism through which the government is held accountable to its people. If the process itself is compromised, then the entire system of governance becomes questionable. The ongoing debate about vote theft is therefore much more than just political noise. It is a critical examination of the systems in place to protect every single vote, ensuring that the voice of the common citizen remains powerful and that the future of the nation is decided in the polling booth, not through manipulated lists. The current political firestorm over vote theft was ignited by a detailed investigation in a single constituency in Karnataka. The place was Mahadevapura, an assembly segment within the city of Bengaluru. For 6 long months, members of the Congress party dug deep into the official voter lists of this area. What they claimed to have found was shocking and formed the very basis of the nationwide allegations that would follow. They alleged that the voter rolls in Mahadevapura were not clean. Instead, they were filled with over 100,000 fraudulent or questionable names, which they believed were added to illegally help the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP. The findings from the Mahadevapura investigation were presented with specific and alarming details. The Congress party pointed to examples that seemed too strange to be a coincidence. They found instances where a single small house was listed as the address for hundreds of different voters. In one case, a woman was found to have been registered twice and allegedly cast 2 separate votes. The opposition argued that these were not simple mistakes or clerical errors. They claimed it was a deliberate strategy to inflate the number of voters who would support the BJP, thereby creating an unfair advantage in the election. What made these allegations so explosive was the connection drawn between the number of fake voters and the election results. The opposition pointed out that the BJP's victory margin in the area, as well as the extra votes the party gained compared to previous elections, was almost the same as the number of fraudulent voters they had identified. This striking similarity led them to conclude that the election outcome in Mahadevapura was directly influenced by this alleged manipulation of the voter list. This case study became the central piece of evidence that the opposition used to argue that a similar pattern might exist in many other constituencies across the country. This revelation from a single constituency in Karnataka acted like a spark that lit a much larger fire. It gave the opposition parties what they believed was concrete proof of a systemic problem. They began using the Mahadevapura example to demand a nationwide audit of all voter lists. The controversy quickly moved from being a local issue to a national crisis, as other parties started looking more closely at their own constituencies. The detailed nature of the Mahadevapura claims provided a framework for others to investigate and question the integrity of the electoral rolls in their own states, leading to a cascade of similar allegations from different parts of India. Following the revelations in Mahadevapura, political parties and independent investigators across India started scrutinizing their local voter lists more carefully. What they found seemed to support the idea that the problem was not isolated to one area, but was a widespread issue. In the state of Maharashtra, a particularly clear example of irregularities emerged. A woman named Sushma Gupta was discovered on the voter roll in the Palghar constituency not once or twice, but an astonishing 19 times. Each entry had a different voter ID number, but all of them featured the same photograph and personal details, like her husband's name. This case became a symbol of how easily the system could seemingly be manipulated. The problem was not limited to duplicate entries. In the state of Bihar, which was preparing for its own assembly elections, the issue took on a different form. An investigation by a media group called the Reporters Collective uncovered that around 1,400 people who were already registered to vote in the neighboring state of Uttar Pradesh had also been illegally added to the new voter lists in Bihar's Valmiki Nagar area. This cross-border registration is not allowed and raised serious questions about the process of adding new voters. The opposition in Bihar argued that such illegal additions were part of a plan to change the election results before voting even started. In Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, the allegations focused on the strategic deletion of names. In the Farrukhabad constituency, the BJP won the 2024 parliamentary election by a very thin margin of just over 2,600 votes. The opposition claimed that this narrow victory was achieved because a large number of voters from the Yadav and Muslim communities, who traditionally do not vote for the BJP, had their names improperly removed from the voter lists in a specific area. Similarly, in Meerut, another close contest, news reports highlighted voter lists with vague addresses like Juggi or Slum or Naya, meaning new, making it impossible to verify if the voters were real people. These examples, coming from different corners of the country, painted a troubling picture. From people being listed multiple times to entire communities allegedly being removed from lists, the irregularities were varied, but pointed to the same fundamental problem. The voter rolls were not clean. The opposition also highlighted absurd entries, such as a voter in Bihar listed as being 134 years old, and official data showing nearly 250,000 voters with 0 as their house number. These specific real-world examples moved the debate from a general accusation to a collection of hard-to-ignore cases that demanded explanation and investigation from the authorities in charge of elections. The controversy has created a sharp divide in Indian politics, with two very different stories being told. On one side, the united opposition, led by the Congress Party, is making very serious accusations. They claim that the integrity of India's elections is under attack. They argue that the numerous errors and irregularities in the voter lists are not random mistakes, but are part of a deliberate, large-scale plan to help the ruling BJP win elections. Opposition leaders have repeatedly stated that they have lost dozens of parliamentary seats due to this vote theft. They are demanding that the Election Commission release all voter data in a searchable, digital format so it can be independently checked by the public and political parties. The opposition's argument is that the Election Commission of India, or ECI, the body responsible for ensuring free and fair elections, is failing in its constitutional duty. They accuse the ECI of either being incompetent or, more seriously, of acting in a partisan manner favoring the ruling party. As proof, they point to the ECI's reluctance to share detailed data and its dismissal of their concerns. This has led to dramatic protests, including a march to the ECI headquarters where many opposition leaders were detained by the police. Their central demand is for accountability and a transparent process to clean the voter rolls before any more elections are held. On the other side of the story are the Election Commission and the BJP, who have strongly denied all the allegations. The ECI has described the opposition's claims as factually incorrect, absurd, and damaging to public trust in the democratic process. They have challenged the opposition leaders to stop making accusations in press conferences and instead submit their evidence formally in a signed affidavit under oath, as required by law. The ECI has stated that political parties were given time to review the draft voter rolls and file objections, but they failed to do so in many cases. They maintain that the process of updating voter lists is robust. The BJP has also responded forcefully, accusing the opposition of creating a false narrative because they cannot accept their electoral defeats. Leaders from the ruling party claim that the opposition is trying to defame Indian democracy on the world stage and undermine respected constitutional bodies like the Election Commission. They argue that if the opposition had real evidence, they would present it through the proper legal channels instead of protesting on the streets. The BJP's position is that the electoral system is strong and transparent, and these allegations are nothing more than a desperate political tactic to create chaos and confusion among voters. In the vast and complex machinery of Indian democracy, the Election Commission of India, or ECI, holds a position of immense importance and power. Established by the Constitution of India, the ECI is an autonomous body tasked with one of the most critical jobs in the country, conducting free and fair elections at both the national and state levels. It's meant to be an independent umpire, ensuring a level playing field for all political parties, whether they're in power or in the opposition. The ECI's responsibilities are enormous, covering everything from preparing and maintaining accurate voter lists to setting election schedules, enforcing a code of conduct, and counting the votes. But, the ECI's most fundamental duty is to ensure the integrity of the electoral rolls. That means its job is to make sure that every eligible citizen who wants to vote is on the list, and that no fake or ineligible names are included. To do this, the ECI regularly undertakes a massive exercise known as the Special Summary Revision, or SSR, where lists are updated to add new voters who've turned 18 and to remove names of people who've passed away or moved to a different constituency. The accuracy of this list is the starting point for any fair election, because an incorrect list can disenfranchise genuine voters or allow for fraudulent voting. Given its crucial role, the ECI must not only be impartial, but must also be seen to be impartial by all stakeholders, political parties and the general public alike. Transparency is really the key to building and maintaining this trust. When the ECI makes decisions like changing the format of voter lists from digital to paper, it needs to clearly explain why it's doing so. When allegations of irregularities are raised, it's expected to investigate them thoroughly and provide clear public answers. A lack of transparency can lead to suspicion that the ECI is no longer a neutral referee, which, honestly, can damage the credibility of the entire election process. The current vote theft controversy has placed the ECI under intense scrutiny. The opposition's allegations that the ECI is not acting with the required transparency and is ignoring their complaints have created a trust deficit. The questions being asked are vital for the future of Indian democracy. Is the ECI doing enough to ensure the voter lists are clean? Is it being transparent about its processes and decisions? The answers to these questions will determine how much faith the people of India will have in the fairness of their elections, making the ECI's response to this crisis a defining moment for the institution. One of the most significant political outcomes of the vote theft scandal has been the creation of a surprisingly strong and united front among India's often divided opposition parties. For years, the opposition has struggled to come together on a common platform to challenge the dominant BJP. However, the allegations of electoral roll manipulation have provided them with a powerful single issue that, well, they all agree on. This shared concern has energized the opposition bloc, known as the India Alliance, and has led to a level of coordination and joint action that hasn't been seen in over a decade. This new unity has been visible in their actions both inside and outside of Parliament. Opposition members of Parliament have repeatedly disrupted parliamentary proceedings, demanding a full debate on the issue of electoral integrity. They've held joint press conferences where leaders from different regional and national parties have stood side by side, speaking with one voice against what they call an attack on the Constitution. The most dramatic display of this unity was the protest march from Parliament to the Election Commission's headquarters, where top leaders from nearly all major opposition parties marched together and courted arrest to highlight their demands. This collaboration is driven by a shared belief that the issue of vote theft transcends normal political competition. Leaders like M.K. Stalin from the southern state of Tamil Nadu and others from across the country have strongly supported the claims first raised by the Congress Party. They argue that if the very process of voting is compromised, then it affects every single political party that is not in power. This belief has turned the controversy from a partisan complaint into a broader fight for what they describe as the soul of Indian democracy, making it easier for parties with different ideologies to find common ground. The growing unity of the opposition poses a new and significant challenge to the ruling BJP. The vote theft issue has become the central rallying cry for the opposition, allowing them to build a powerful narrative against the government and the Election Commission. This has changed the political discourse, shifting the focus to fundamental questions about fairness, transparency, and the health of democratic institutions. As the country heads towards more elections, especially the crucial state election in Bihar, this united opposition front, centered on the issue of electoral integrity, is likely to play a very important role in shaping the political landscape. The ongoing debate about vote theft has moved beyond the corridors of Parliament and has started to capture the attention of the general public. For ordinary citizens, the news of widespread irregularities in voter lists is, honestly, deeply unsettling. Many people are beginning to question the fairness of the system they have long trusted. On social media, in local newspapers, and in community discussions, there's a growing conversation about the need for greater transparency in the electoral process. People want to know if their vote is safe and if their name is secure on the voter roll. This public concern is putting pressure on all institutions to be more open and accountable. The call for transparency is really at the heart of the public's reaction. Citizens and civil society groups like the Association for Democratic Reforms, or ADR, have been demanding that the Election Commission make electoral data easily accessible. They argue that if voter lists were available in a machine-readable format, independent researchers, journalists, and even ordinary citizens could help identify errors and clean up the lists. When the ECI resists sharing this data, citing technical difficulties or a lack of rules, it creates suspicion and erodes public trust. The feeling is, if there's nothing to hide, then all the data should be made public. This controversy is likely to have a significant impact on future elections. Voters may become more vigilant, checking their own names on the voter lists before polling day. There might be a greater demand for accountability from local election officials. Political parties will also likely be more aggressive in scrutinizing the voter rolls and challenging any discrepancies they find. This heightened awareness could make it more difficult for any kind of manipulation to go unnoticed. The scandal has, in a way, educated the public about the importance of the electoral roll, a part of the election process that many previously took for granted. Looking ahead, the key question is how the Election Commission and the government will respond to this crisis of trust. If they take concrete steps to address the allegations, conduct a transparent audit of the voter lists, and make data more accessible, they could help restore faith in the system. However, if they continue to dismiss the concerns and resist calls for transparency, public cynicism could grow. This could lead to lower voter turnout or increased political instability. The future of public engagement with the democratic process now depends heavily on whether citizens feel their most fundamental right, the right to a fair vote, is being protected. As the dust from this political storm continues to swirl, it's important to step back and remember the fundamental principle at the center of it all, the value of every single vote. In a democracy, the vote is the most powerful tool a citizen has. It's the great equalizer, giving the richest person and the poorest person the same amount of power to shape their country's future. It doesn't matter which political party a person supports, what religion they follow, or what language they speak. The right to vote is a universal right that belongs to every eligible citizen. and protecting it is the most important duty of a democratic nation. The current controversy over vote theft is, therefore, not just about which party wins or loses an election. It's about protecting the very idea of India as a democracy. When allegations arise that voter lists are being manipulated, it suggests that some votes are being treated as more important than others, and that some citizens are being unfairly silenced. This is a direct attack on the principle of equality that forms the bedrock of the Indian Constitution. A fair election is one where the outcome is decided only by the people who cast their ballots legally and freely, not by those who tamper with the lists behind the scenes. Ensuring the integrity of the electoral process is a shared responsibility. While the Election Commission has the primary constitutional duty, political parties, civil society organizations, the media, and every individual citizen also have a role to play. Political parties must compete fairly and follow the rules. Citizens must be vigilant and check that their names are on the voter lists. The media must investigate and report on irregularities without fear or favor. Only when all parts of society work together to safeguard the electoral process can democracy truly flourish and remain healthy for future generations. In conclusion, the debate over vote theft in India serves as a crucial reminder of why fair elections are so vital. They are the peaceful and orderly way through which power is transferred and governments are held accountable. They are the channel through which the collective will of 1.4 billion people is expressed. Protecting the sanctity of each vote is essential for maintaining social trust, political stability, and the fundamental promise of democracy itself. The challenge now is to repair the broken trust and reinforce the systems that ensure every voter's voice is heard and every vote is counted, because in a true democracy, every single vote matters.